Well, it's 6 o'clock, but, oh, there's Brett. All right. Okay. I'll call the Tremont Planning Board meeting of Tuesday, February 8th to order at 6 p.m. Roll call, Brett Witham,
Here.
Jeff Young. You're muted.
Here.
I can hear you now. Yes, you're here.
Yep.
And myself, Mark Good, I'm here. Excuse absences. Beth has a family matter tonight, and Lawson won't be with us until our March 8th meeting, probably. He is in South America. So I'll take a motion to excuse their absences.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to excuse Beth Gott and Lawson Wilson. All in favor? Brett?
Aye.
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay. Anybody see a reason to adjust the agenda? I don't.
No.
Okay. Minutes. I saw a couple of issues, and it was mainly on how the votes were counted. If we go to 5, motion on the motion right after number 5 with Brett not voting as he was not present. She has 4-0-0. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so you didn't recuse yourself. That's fine then. That's fine. It was
Hold
on the
on,
other
yes. I'm muted. Would you bring
No,
me
you're
a
not.
glass of white wine, please?
You're actually not muted.
I'm not?
No.
How did that?
You're unmuted.
Okay, and on to the second page there, middle, there were 2 votes where Lawson was in opposition. She recorded as 4-0-1. It should be 4-1-0 in both cases. You see
Yep.
those?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I saw. Anybody else have any issues?
No.
It's okay, take a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
So
Those
moved.
2 changes.
So moved.
Brett?
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor? Brett?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay. Okay, next we have a public hearing on the amendment to number 3 for the Robert and Julia Spar subdivision. We'll open that at 6:03 p.m. Anybody want to make a comment? Well, as expected, I don't think we're going to get anything. So I'll give everybody a last chance to weigh in. Hearing nothing, I'll close the public hearing at 6:04. Old business findings of fact on Amendment 3 to the Robert and Julia Spar subdivision lots 1 and 2. And before we proceed with that, I just want to let my other board members here know that I received a call from Rick Smith the other day, who was asking me to change this to an in-person meeting. I explained to him that I couldn't do that and it had already been advertised as a Zoom meeting. I'm just telling you that I don't feel I have an issue. I don't feel I really need to recuse myself. If you guys feel otherwise, please say so. Of course, we can't proceed because we wouldn't have a quorum.
So you're asking whether we think you should recuse yourself because you responded that we couldn't have an in-person meeting?
Yeah. Well, I
don't think there's an issue. I'm just disclosing what happened.
No, I don't think there's an issue. I think we can just move forward. Do you agree, Jeff? I mean,
Okay, great.
Do
You
we-
agree, Jeff? I mean, I don't see an issue.
Did Rick state a reason why he wanted it as an in-person meeting versus Zoom?
I think so that he could get his application signed at that meeting.
Oh, yeah.
But he did admit that it coming to the plan, it was no fault of the planning board that it came so late. So things,
So, I mean, we can
things
just,
happened on his end.
we can just try to get him to sign it tomorrow if we can, right? I mean, if you're just looking for us to sign it, we can just all try
Yeah,
to.
yeah, I think we can do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
we can sign it tomorrow. As soon as
Yeah,
we
I can get down there tomorrow.
Good enough. So let's move on to findings of fact here. And if you folks remember, we need to have a motion on each one with a reason as well. So the first one is pollution. And whether this is met or not, the proposed subdivision will not result in undue water or air pollution. And in making this determination, we shall at least consider the elevation of the land above sea level and its relation to the floodplains, nature of soils, subsoils, their ability to adequately support wastewater, slope of the land and its effect on effluents, the availability of streams for disposal of effluents, and the applicable state and local health and water resources, rules, and regulations.
Just quick recollection. We're creating a lot that's already been developed and it's been there for a number of years. Correct?
Yes. Well, basically,
That's right. Yeah, we're just talking about a lot line. Yep.
And the only issues we had on our completion is that we couldn't read the survey, some of the fine print of where wells and so forth are located, and we now have that in the file.
that's correct. Yes. Yeah. And you have it in your packet as well, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And I did not see any, I know I mentioned to Tom Benson that I wanted a chance to look at it, and I didn't see anything that was omitted that he said was there. As I thought would be accurate, it was accurate.
And it was much easier to see than on the screen last week, right? Or the other week.
Or any other way. Yes. So I will move this first one that the proposed amendment will not have any undue effect on the water and air pollution based upon the fact the amendment simply relocates a lot line with wells and septic system that already existing.
Second.
Motion and a second on the table to find that condition 1, pollution has been met for the stated reason. Any discussion? Hearing none. Brett?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Sufficient water. The proposed subdivision has sufficient water available for the foreseeable needs of the subdivision. And we know there was wells in existence here, so.
Yeah, I'm going to move that this requirement is met because, again, as Jeff had mentioned, this is really just a lot line change, and the proposed amendment will not have any effect on water available for the needs of the subdivision. The wells are already in existence.
Second.
Motion and second on the table to find the sufficient water condition has been met for the stated reason. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Brett?
Yes.
Yes.
Jeff? Myself, yes.
Hey, Mark, I'm willing to
Municipal-
just move the next one, the municipal water supply. I move that there's no public water available and this is not applicable to this application.
I'll second.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jeff. That makes sense. I mean, whoa. Why all of a sudden we have a screen here?
I don't know.
Oh, no. Ah,
Well,
I have a motion and a second that the municipal water supply condition is not applicable in this case for the stated reason. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Brett?
yes.
Jeff?
yes.
Myself, yes. 3-0. I thought I hit something there. The erosion condition proposed subdivision will not cause unreasonable soil erosion or a reduction in the land's capacity to hold water so that a dangerous or unhealthy condition results.
I'm going to move that this proposed amendment will not cause unreasonable soil erosion or reduction in the land capacity to hold water because, as proposed, there's no clearing or excavation proposed in the amendment.
I'll second it.
Motion is second to table to find the erosion control condition has been met for the stated reason. Any discussion? Hearing none. Brett?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. 3-0.
Mark, if
Next
you
up.
like, I say as to the requirement of traffic, I would move, to save you reading all that, I would move that the proposed amendment is a change of lot line and will not affect the highway or public road congestion.
I'll second.
Yep. Motion and second on the table that the traffic condition has been met for the stated reason. Any discussion? Hearing none. Brett?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Sewage disposal condition? Jeff, you wanted, I have no problems getting through this as quick as possible.
I don't want to usurp
No, no.
your ability, wanting to read all these, but if you want me to shorten it, I'm perfectly willing to shorten it. I will move
It's
that
not
the,
really a controversial thing here.
I remove the requirement under our ordinances for sewage disposal has been met as all sewage disposal systems are existing and in place, and the movement of a lot line does not affect that system.
I'll second.
Motion is second to find the sewage disposal condition has been met for the stated reason. I'll call for a vote. I won't even ask for discussion. Just jump in if you need to discuss something, okay?
Yeah.
Brett?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. 3-0.
Mark, since next one's not applicable, I'll move the municipal solid waste disposal requirement of our ordinances are not applicable, as there's no municipal solid waste disposal on the site.
I'll second.
Motion is second to table find the municipal solid waste disposal condition is not applicable for stated reason. I'll call for a vote. Brett?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. 3-0. Here we go, Jeff.
I thought, how about your turn, Brett?
Yeah, I'll go. I'll do one. That's fine.
You were doing so well, Jeff. Come on.
I'm going to, I'll move that the item number 8, the aesthetic, cultural, and natural values requirement is met in that the proposed amendment will not have an undue adverse effect on the scenic or natural beauty of the area or aesthetics, no historic sites, significant wildlife habitat identified by the Department of Inland Fisheries, or rare or replaceable natural resources or any public rights of way for physical and visual access to shoreline exists within the subdivision.
I second it.
Motion is second to table to find the aesthetic, cultural, natural values condition has been met for the stated reason. Call for a vote. Brett?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Conformity with local ordinances and plans?
I will move that the proposed amendment conforms to the adopted subdivision regulations and ordinances, comprehensive plan and development plan and land use plan, as it again is in movement of a lot line within an approved subdivision.
Second.
Motion and second on the table to find the conformity with local ordinances and plans condition has been met for the stated reason. Call for a vote. Brett?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Financial and technical capacity.
I don't know if I can move this one because I don't know if Rick can afford what he's doing here, still moving a lot line, but I will move it anyway. I'll move the applicant already owns the lot and is only relocating a lot line and does not require additional development. And so the financial and technical capacity can be met by the applicant.
Second.
Motion is second on the table to find the financial and technical capacity condition has been met for the stated reason. Brett?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. That's 3-0. I noticed there's a typo there. It's financial spelled wrong there in the second part of that. Surface waters, outstanding river segments.
I will move that that provision of ordinances is not applicable, as no portion of the subdivision is within a watershed of any pond or lake as reflected on the application and the existing subdivision.
Second.
Motion is second on the table to find the surface waters outstanding river segments condition has been met for stated reason.
I believe I said not applicable if I didn't.
Not applicable. I'm sorry. Yes, not applicable. You did. I'm rushing too fast here. Sorry. And I'll call for a vote. Brett,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
myself, yes. Groundwater.
I'll move the requirement of our ordinance regarding groundwater, that the proposed amendment will not affect the quality or quantity of groundwater, as there's an existing development on an existing subdivision, and the single-family residence that's being parceled off will not increase the use or impact on those that facility.
Second.
Motion and a second on the table find the groundwater condition has been met for the stated reason. Call for a vote. Brett,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
myself, yes. Flood areas.
I'll move that this condition is met in that the FEMA flood line is depicted on the plan. There's no principal structures that will be built within the flood zone due to the flood zone being within 75 feet of the setback from the high water line.
Second.
Motion and second to find that the flood areas condition has been met for the stated reason. Call for a vote. Brett,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
myself, yes. Freshwater wetlands.
I'll move that the freshwater wetlands requirement for reflecting any existing on the premises has been met as they've been identified on the plan as submitted as part of the application.
Second.
Motion and second to find the freshwater wetlands condition has been met for stated reason. Call for a vote. Brett,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
myself, yes. I'm getting off easy here. Come on, guys, keep it up.
You want to take one, Mark? Go ahead.
Stormwater. I have to call for the vote, so it's tough. You can do
Where
it.
are we at? Are we at 15 or 16?
15.
15. Sorry.
15.
River, stream, or brook.
River, stream, or brook. I'll move that the river, stream, or brook condition is met because no stream has been identified in the plan submitted as part of the application. Well,
Second.
Motion is second to find the river, stream, and brook or brook condition has been met for the stated reason. I'll call for a vote. Brett,
yes.
he was thinking about that one. Jeff,
Well, I'm not sure it's applicable, but it doesn't matter. Yes, it's met.
Yes.
okay, myself, yes. Well, that's a good point. Anyway, it's met.
Yeah.
Stormwater.
I'll move that the stormwater condition is met in that it will provide for adequate water management. The proposed subdivision amendment will follow best practices for adequate stormwater management for any future development. None is proposed at this time.
Second.
I'll second it. No, Jeff seconded it. Okay, motion is second on the table to find the stormwater condition has been met for the stated reason. Call for a vote. Brett,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
myself, yes. 3-0.
And since I
Spaghetti
like
lots.
Italian food, I'll move that the spaghetti lot prohibition has been met in our ordinances, that none of the lots created by the movement of this lot line affect the shore frontage and greater ratio of 5-1.
Second.
Okay, that, by the way, that's the pasta prohibition.
Okay.
Yeah. Motion is second on the table to find the spaghetti lots prohibited condition has been met for the stated reason. Call for a vote. Brett,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
myself, yes. 3-0. Lake phosphorus concentration.
I'll move the requirement under our ordinances of lake phosphorus concentration is not applicable.
I'll second.
Motion is second on the table to find the lake phosphorus concentration condition is not applicable. Call for a vote. Brett,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
myself, yes. Okay, impact on adjoining municipality.
I'll move that the condition for impact on adjoining municipality is not applicable because no portion of the proposed amendment crosses municipal boundaries.
Second.
Motion and second to find the impact on adjoining municipality condition is not applicable for stated reason. Call for a vote. Brett?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Land subject to liquidation harvesting.
I'll move that this condition is met in that no harvesting has occurred or is proposed in the amendment.
Second. Motion and second.
I'd like to ask the applicant a question since he was in the forest timber business. I don't remember the answer to this when we went over the first time. Rick, has there been any timber harvested on the parcel?
You're muted, Rick. Upper right-hand corner. Or now you're unmuted.
Okay, let's try it now.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, got that. Thanks. Jeff, yeah, the only thing that's been harvested here has been for the building of, for the harvesting for the building of the buildings themselves, the structures. And if you recall, we harvested near the barn to use the timber for the barn. Otherwise, it's just been for clearing for residential purposes.
Fine.
But you're
I
right,
thought-
it wasn't that business.
I'm just doing my due diligence. Thank you, Rick.
I know. Thanks. Hey, it's good to see you guys having at least a little bit of jovial fun for a change.
How long ago was that, Rick? You did that, the
Oh,
harvesting?
it was in 95 through 2007, depending on which building was being constructed. And they were
Okay.
really just residential cuttings,
Right.
except
we
for
have
the
a-
barn, as Jeff knows.
Okay. I think Brett made a motion, but I don't know if we have a second from Jeff or
No,
not.
I second, then want a discussion. So second,
Okay.
I believe.
Okay, motion is second on the table to find the land subject to liquidation harvesting condition has been met for the stated reason. Call for a vote. Brett?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay, now we need a motion to approve the subdivision application. And if you have your sheet in front of you, there's some language there. I won't bother to read, but you may want to include that in your motion, please.
I will move that we approve the subdivision application, Robert and Julia Spar subdivision amendment number 3. Applicant Representative Tom Benson, tax map lot 6, lot 051-1 and 06-51-2, limited residential shoreline residential subdivision area.
Second.
Motion and second on the table to approve the subdivision application. Call for a vote or any discussion first. Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Brett?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Rick, we know you're in a hurry. I think the board is in agreement that they can come tomorrow and sign the plans. And I can't guarantee what time that's going to be.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the time you had to spend on it. And it's good to hear you, to see you laugh
we had to
again.
do. What's that?
It's good to see you laughing again, all three of you, all four of you.
Mark,
You guys do a lot of work, and I appreciate it as a
Thank you,
town
thank you.
member, not just for this.
Yes, Jeff.
would you be sure the town emails us or communicates so we know it when we come down there, it will be ready for us at the counter?
Okay, Jesse's here. Jesse? John won't be in tomorrow.
Yes,
Plan
I'll
is-
ready.
It's on
I'll
top of
email
the
you when
pro-
it's ready.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think you muted me again.
Okay. Next up, Pointy Head Site Plan Review Application. Now, if you remember that we've tabled this 2 times, waiting for an opinion from our attorney about whether this is a campground or not. Some of that was based originally on the fact there was a moratorium in effect, which no longer exists. But at least to me, we still need to determine whether this is a campground or not, because the standards are much different. What do you think, board members?
I think that's true, Mark. I think that's true. I think we've got to, in working with the applicant, figure out which path it goes down, because they are very different paths. I had a chance to skim the letter from Diane. I'm going to read it now.
Would you like a few minutes to do that?
I can read it while, I think keep going on. I just want to read. I do need to read it. It shouldn't take too long. It's only, it's only a page.
Take a couple minutes to read it then. So I think that's really the first decision we need to make here.
So who thought it was all going to turn on whether they're transients? So it turns on the timing, the time frame, how long people are going to stay there. Is that what I'm reading, basically?
Well, frankly, I wasn't very happy with her opinion, but I'm an attorney. You guys probably know that. You guys are. Although you're a recovering attorney, I guess, Jeff.
Yeah.
So if they stay there for 7 days or more, if it's, or at least if that's available for them to stay for 7 days or more, then it's a campground. If it's less than 7 days, then it's arguably
either a campground or a commercial use. Yeah.
But can't people stay? I mean, people stay sometimes longer than that in a hotel, I suppose. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, all right.
Mark,
Yes.
would you and Brett be amenable to hearing a few words from the 2 attorneys that represent one? Bear represents the applicant, and Dan Plague represents some neighbors. I think they're going to have different views on this, and
I would be surprised.
Yes, Mark. Strictly yes.
I was going to suggest that myself, so that's a good idea. So
Have they seen Diane's? I assume they've seen the.
I don't know whether Mr. Pelleggi has, but I'm sure Mr. Bearer has.
Okay.
So, Mr. Bearer, you want to go first here?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I did receive the letter, I think, at the same time that Dan did this afternoon. I thought that at bottom, the suggestion of the town attorney was that if the applicant chooses to characterize for a use as a campground, then it's a campground. If she chooses to characterize it as a commercial use, transit accommodations, whatever, then it's that. We provided you, I think, with a more exhaustive analysis with our memo of December 13th, setting forth the reasons why we weren't subject to the moratorium, and furthermore, why we were not a campground under the ordinance. And I would stand on that memo still. I would say that it has always been Ms. Brogdon's position that it was not a campground. And as I mentioned before, It was the code officer who classified it as such. And we are prepared to move forward as if this is, quote, not a campground, and would like the board to review it in that manner.
Okay, thank you.
Are you prepared to move forward if we do find it as a campground?
Yeah, we're prepared to move forward in that with that respect too, although we may hold open the option to appeal that characterization. I think that the standards, whatever they may be, differences they may be, we can meet. We've got plenty of land. We can adjust building locations as necessary. I don't think that there's any standard that we couldn't meet otherwise. But if we're being honest with each other, it's not a campground.
Thank you. Brett, do you have any questions for Mr. Bearer before we move on to Dan?
No, I don't.
Okay, Dan, I guess you're up.
Thank you. I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage today. I was in a judicial settlement conference up until about 5 o'clock, and I didn't even know that Diane O'Connell had written an opinion to the board until you started talking about it. I'm reviewing it now, probably minutes after Brett did, but remind the board that this is a situation in which this application has been presented to you several times. It's been a campground every time. It's similar to almost identical to other uses in town that have been deemed a campground. Because there's nothing in the application that suggests that the duration of stays in any of these buildings are going to be limited, as the board's counsel has suggested, I think that it still fits into the definition of campground that she has identified. Was I brief enough?
That's fine. You don't want to add anything, right? Okay. Brett or Jeff, do you have any questions for Dan? I do. What do you make of, I don't have it in front of me, her contention that it's up to the applicant, which Mr. Bearer had mentioned, to make that decision?
I don't think, honestly, I disagree with her. Mr. Bearer, Ms. O'Connell, and I all represent and advise different municipal boards. I think that the more restrictive provision in the ordinance is going to apply to the application. I don't think you get to pick and choose. And I in my opinion, this falls squarely within the campground definitions.
Thank you.
I think I'd like to be heard in response to that, if I
Sure.
could, Mr. Chairman. The notion that the more strict standard would apply is one that I wouldn't argue with. We're not talking about a standard here. We're talking about what it is. Is it an elephant? Is it a donkey? Is it a campground? Is it something else? Your ordinance is all we have to work with, and your ordinance has been reviewed by the town's attorney. And it's, again, as I said, we provided you with a fairly detailed memo back in December. So all the reasons why we were not a campground. And we would stand by that memo. As for the number of days and that being a factor, that wasn't anything that we thought would be a factor, but to the extent that that would be the deciding factor as to whether we are a campground or a transient accommodation, then we would certainly limit stays and agree to a condition that limits stays to 7 days. That just wasn't an issue on the horizon at the time we filed this application. It's coming up now. That would be fine.
And how would that be enforced?
Like any other condition that you put on an applicant, I guess, as to how it would be enforced. And I guess I would say, come by and do a periodic check if you want to of the roster of people staying. How long have they been there? I mean, I don't know how you'd enforce it.
Brett?
You accept representations from applicants all the time about how they're going to proceed with their project. So enforcement's always a question.
Brett, were you going to say something?
I'm just reading the letter again. No, I'm not ready to yet. No.
For me, I see a couple things here. The applicant has provided a letter from the Attorney General's office regarding use of the road into the property. It states it's for a commercial campground.
Well, the reason for that, as we explained in our memo, is that the code enforcement officer established that as our use. That's what he called it. That's what you had called it. And that's what was on the table when we sought the opinion from the Attorney General that the reasons established before for not being able to use the driveway were invalid. So we were simply parroting what we had been told would be our pigeonholed approach. Mr. Chairman, there is no moratorium in effect any longer. While it is important that we determine what we are, there are very few of these standards in your completeness checklist, at least, that bear on this question. So I would hate to think that we're going to belabor it because we're going to go along with whatever characterization you select, but we don't believe that we are a campground.
Well, the one standard would be the setbacks. Your application has a 25-foot rather than a 50-foot setback. If you're a campground, yeah.
And as I said, we have plenty of acreage. We can meet a 50-foot setback if we need to.
So why don't you just call yourselves why don't you just call yourself a campground? There's no moratorium anymore.
Well, our client has always maintained that this is not a campground, and I think she's entitled to maintain that her use is not such a thing. I mean, we've talked about before the reservation system is VRBO. We don't have the typical accoutrements of a campground. We don't have fire pits. We don't have volleyball nets. We don't have all that outdoor recreation stuff going on. We're not a campground. That's why.
As you point out, Mark, if we're not going to be a campground, then does the Attorney General have to review the letters because it was mine of that type of business where they felt there was a waiver? If it is a campground, then that letter comes in as part of the application. So I almost say we've got a problem, or the applicant may have a problem as to whether we can accept that letter since it's defined the use was as campground. Whether it was proper or not, according to the applicant, that's what they want or not, it's what the Attorney General's office has seen and what they reviewed. Also
hear a lot about it being blamed on the code enforcement officer that this has been categorized as a campground initially. Was that Mr. Larson that you're talking about?
It was Mr. Larson, Mr. Chairman, and I'm not blaming anyone. It was his determination, not Ms. Brogdon's determination. That's all I said. I'm not blaming anyone.
Okay.
I'm not blaming Jeff Young for saying last time we got together for a completeness review that he questioned seriously whether this was a campground after he heard how we were going to operate it. That's a matter of record too. I'm not blaming him for saying that. I'm just pointing out.
I'd like to address this for a moment. I feel my words are taken out of context. There was sarcasm expressed in that, and it's the second time you've raised that. If you want to create that kind of atmosphere in this application, go right ahead.
I don't want to create that kind of atmosphere. I want to get
Mr. Larson is with us. Mr. Larson, how do you remember this as going down?
Well, there was minutes from that meeting. Wasn't the original application called Pointy Head Campground?
Yes.
No, I didn't make it. They called it a campground. I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, one other thing, Jeff, and well, everyone, I guess, at least the original application, I think it contemplated tents. There were tent platforms.
Not all of them. There were still some of the
that's right. That's fine. That's fine. But there were some tents, correct?
Yes.
Right. So if you have tents, I would argue you are necessarily within the campground definition, because I don't see tents under hotel, motel, cabins, cottages, but I do under campgrounds. I think tents tent, I mean, obviously a tent is at a campsite. I mean, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to. And there were platforms that were going to have tents. That was part of the original application. I don't know, like now I don't think there are tents anymore.
But Brett, don't forget the second application where there were no tents.
That's right. I said, I don't think there are tents anymore, but I'm just going back to the original application. And it makes sense that it would have been characterized as a campground because they had tents.
Mark, did we have 3 applications here or 2? And the one in the middle is where they came to us with a proposal. Is that an application?
The second one we found incomplete.
Oh, right. That's right. Thank you. And that had no tents in it.
No tents that I remember.
And was still presented as a campground.
Exactly.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
last time we discussed this in December, we provided you with what I thought was a fairly persuasive memo, and you simply wanted to get the town attorney's opinion. You've gotten the town attorney's opinion. It's apparent that it isn't sitting well with the board. On behalf of the applicant, we'd like to move forward, and you can review this under the campground standards. That is fine. Let's move forward with our review of the completeness for our application. Consider it a campground. That's fine. Go ahead.
What do you think, board members? I don't see a problem then. We don't have to make that decision. It's a campground, right, Mr. Mayor?
Got to move on.
It's a campground, right, Mr. Mayor?
We've been doing, did I say that? Yes, it is.
Yes, okay. Yeah, I just want to double check here.
I'll move that the applicant has, and Mr. Barrett can correct the language if he doesn't like it, has gone on the record to reflect that this application be treated as a campground.
I'll second that. Motion and second on the table to find that the applicant, through Mr. Bear, has decided that this application is for a campground. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Brett?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. 3-0 to find that the Pointy Head application is for a campground. And now we have to move on to reviewing this for completeness. Yes. Yes. Dude, Brett, or did you say something or?
No, my dog did. He approves of the motion.
Okay, okay. Give me a second here to find all the information. Okay. We also, you may want to note that I'm sure you folks saw that Mr. Pelleggi had filed something regarding completeness of this as well, and had Haley Ward look at it and had some, found some issues with it, but also we have our checklist prepared by our code enforcement officer as well. So let's start with that.
Mr. Chairman, might I ask if you also have, as part of our application filed back in late October, early November, a checklist that we had provided at the very front of our application, which shows you where you can find all of the items that are on your checklist?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I'm sure
All
it's
right.
in there.
All right.
I know I saw it.
Because we didn't realize that we were at variance with the code enforcement officer until we got a copy of his checklist this afternoon or this morning. So I'm not sure if he didn't have the entire application, but we think all the boxes have been checked. But we're more than happy to take your comments and respond appropriately.
Okay, thank you. You ready, board, to proceed? Remember, for completeness, we don't have to have a motion on each item, just at the end. Okay, a fully executed and signed copy of the application for site plan review.
Yes.
We have that, I believe. Brett, you agree?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got a document dated October 29th, prepared by Heat Fine Engineering and Design.
Yep.
If I can ask,
Okay.
Mr. Bear a question, just to make sure I'm not missing a document. The checklist was part of the bound, is the checklist in the bound application, correct?
That is my understanding, Mr. Young. We have our engineer, Alina Watt, here tonight. You can see her in the second row. Just below
I can save you, your engineer some time. Yes, it's in there, Jeff. If you look,
Oh, no, I'm staring at it. I want to make sure there wasn't another checklist I should be looking at.
okay.
That's all. I see
think
this
there's-
one.
I think there's only one.
There's
Okay.
no other checklist, right?
When it
That's
said submitted, I didn't realize, to make sure it's the one bound in the whole application. That's
Okay.
all.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay. So we do have the signed copy of the application and evidence of payment of the application. Got receipt number 67862. Mr. Bear, if we ever go through this again, please number the pages in your binder. We okay there, folks? Did you find the receipt?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. One original and 9 copies of written materials plus 1 original and 9 sets of maps. The maps or drawings must be at a scale sufficient to allow review of items listed under approval standards, but in no case greater than 1 inch equals 100 feet. That's C1. Maybe we should have, I'm sorry, Alina Watt, is it? Miss Watt? Yeah.
Yes.
Is that C1?
We have, there's 2 drawings, C1, which is a site plan, and then C2 has some standard details.
Okay. I do have a question about C1. It says for agency review, not for construction.
That's correct. This is a permit level plan.
So are you saying it might not be constructed exactly the way you show on this plan?
It's at a level for permitting. So obviously when it moves into construction and design, there's a lot more information that'll be placed on the plans for a contractor to actually build. But for the purposes of the application review, we trust that there's enough information presented that you'd be able to make a completeness review.
Thank you.
But yeah. Please ask me any questions about the plan, though. I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability.
Don't worry. What do you think, members? Any problems with that?
I assume we got 9 copies. Only John can confirm that. We haven't.
Yeah. John,
Yes,
we have the 9 copies.
yes,
Great.
Yep.
So
we're good.
we're okay there then.
Yeah.
Record owner's name, address, and phone number, applicant's name, address, and phone number. We got that on the application.
Yeah, I see that.
Yep.
Okay. Yard. P1. Well, considering it's a 25-foot setback and you need 50, because you're now a campground, I don't think this condition's been fully met.
We certainly wouldn't disagree with that, Mr. Chairman. We realize we have to file a revised plan regarding the setbacks.
Board members, you in agreement? That's a no?
Yes, yes, it's
Yes.
Name of any and all property boundaries.
There's a list here. I'll presume it's all the names. It was prepared by John and Jesse.
I wondered the same thing. John, did you find all the names here?
Yes,
And you checked them all, okay. I think we're okay there unless somebody feels otherwise.
Nope, that's right.
Okay. Tax map to ensure location of site within the town based on tax map. Tax map 3 is part of the application.
Yep, it's here. Looks like it is.
Yep, I see it, yeah. Okay, subject property right here. Well, it doesn't show the continuation across the road. Harbor Drive. Okay. Boundary wall contiguous control of the owner or applicant regardless of whether all.
Mark,
Yes.
when you lean over, like
Oh,
that,
the mic, sorry.
your
Yeah, you
voice.
sound like on the
Yeah,
PMAX.
no, you're right. I'm sorry. I understand. It's my eyes, Jeff. I have to lean over to read this stuff.
Join the club.
Yeah, well, you don't have glaucoma. Boundaries of all contiguous property under total or partial control of the owner or applicant, regardless of whether all or part is being developed. And here, yes.
Wait a minute, Mark, can we go back to the previous one? Did you want the lot across the street included to reflect on the plan?
Well, I think this 8.2E also includes that, don't you?
it's on C1, isn't it?
Mr. Chairman, there is a boundary survey by Pliska and Day that's also included in the application set that shows the entire property boundary.
It's on one of 4 at the end.
Thank you.
We're at the end here.
1 of 4 at the end. On the folder.
Okay. Yep, I got you.
Yeah.
You okay there, board?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Tax map and lot number of the parcel or parcels on which the project is located. In application shown on plan, according to John. I think we're okay there.
Yep.
Okay. copy of the deed to the property, an option to purchase the property or other document to demonstrate right title or interest. That's in the application. Stop me if anybody disagrees. Name, registration number, and seal of the person who prepared the plan if applicable. Yeah, we have that.
Yep.
Yep.
The applicant's technical and financial capacity or capability to carry out the project as proposed. Letter from the bank stating $76,500 is available to fund a project, but no estimated development cost included in application. I did see that this is one of the things that Haley Ward and Mr. Plague's submittal had an issue with, I believe. I've looked at so much stuff today.
Mr. Chairman, this is
Yes.
Mr. Mayor. It seems to me that in completeness review, you're not determining whether or not somebody, whether the evidence in front of you is compelling so that you'd have to vote yes. You're just, can you check the box off? And obviously you can check off that box because there's the letter. And it doesn't just say $76,000, it says that was the estimated cost, but she has funding for this project of this size or many times larger. We can get another letter before the board meets again, but I think that the box can be checked because we have demonstrated that to you.
Thank you. I don't have any issue with that. Brett or Jeff?
No, I don't have an issue.
Jeff, I'm sorry, you broke up.
No, I
Okay,
have no issue with it.
okay. Existing conditions, zoning classification is shown on plan C1. Also in the application, I believe, too. So looks good to me. Anybody disagree? The bearings and length of all property lines to be developed and the source of this information shown on plans. And we do know that you did have a survey done, correct, Mr. Chair?
Did you direct that question to me, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I just,
Yeah, we did have a survey done this summer by Pliskin Day, and it's part of the application.
Good.
It's my recollection when this application was before first time, there was no survey. Is that correct?
That is correct.
that's my recollection as well, yeah.
That's all. Thank
Yep.
you.
We're okay there. Location and size of any existing septic and well, culverts and drains, underground tanks. Well, system that's not here.
But the engineers here is the existing septic system reflected here? It's hard to see in some of the print.
I don't think it is.
The proposed development is going to have a new on-site septic system that's separate from the residence that's currently on the site. And there is a
Right.
there is a septic design.
We do understand that, but we're looking to see if the existing septic is shown on the plan, and we don't see where it is. So I'd say this has not been met. In agreement, folks?
Septic and well too.
Yeah, how about the well, the existing well?
Existing. Oh, excuse me. The existing well is shown on the plan. It's about halfway up the driveway near the existing residence.
halfway up the driveway on the north side?
Correct.
Does it have an arrow pointing at it?
It does, and the word well is somewhat nestled next to a tree symbol.
I see it.
Yeah, I think I see it. Note what I'm using here.
I was just thinking, I wish I had one. Okay, so there is a well shown. But
So we
there
need
isn't-
septic shown.
Yeah, the existing septic needs to be shown, okay. Location names and present width of existing streets and rights of way within or adjacent to the proposed development. Well, once again, we encountered a problem we encountered the last time. Mr. Goff shown on the plan. So this has not been met. And I believe there's another, it's not shown either. The
I'm sorry,
location,
I'm not sure
Pardon?
I heard what was missing.
the adjacent streets and driveways. There's a driveway right next to the driveway into Pointy Head, for one thing. It's not even shown on the plan. And it's like 20 feet away at the most.
Right. You're right. It should be shown there on the plan. It wasn't picked up by the survey. It is shown on the aerial that's on an inset in the plan. However, when we issue the revised site plan, I'll definitely make sure that we include that existing driveway.
Thank you. Location, dimensions, elevations of all existing buildings on the site. Well, I didn't see this either.
Well, when I'm looking at C1, I think it's C1, it looks like some of the buildings that actually precipitated a lot of the issues on this property, because I think a stop work order or something was put out on it. There were 4 small cabins. I think we saw them when we were there. And I think I see on the plan they're being relocated. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, because they were in commercial fisheries shoreline zone, maritime activity zone, I mean.
So at the time of the survey, they picked up the location of several of these small structures that you're referring to. And there was one that was located within the 25-foot side yard setback, which is going to be now 50 foot. So we're showing that one cabin to be relocated so it's compliant with the setback requirements. There are no structures proposed in the maritime zone.
So can you hear me all right? So the arrows that show is where the one cabin is and it goes up to the side of the parking lot there? Is that what that arrow indicates? Or is that 2 separate cabins?
No, that indicates that cabin is being relocated. So it's one cabin.
Or any other cabins being moved?
No.
Well, they will be with a new setback.
Yeah, but yes. Thank you, Brett.
And also, do we have the dimensions and elevation of these existing buildings?
Each one of these buildings is going to be a unique lodging structure. We don't have the elevation information of each one of those because as they're built, they'll have, it's custom fit into the landscape.
Well, we're in
other words,
sort of
the
gray
dimensions
area.
either.
We're sort of a gray area that we have existing cabins without the dimensions and elevations, but the ones being moved and so forth. What do we want this to reflect at the end of the day?
You broke up at the end there, Jeff. Please repeat that, at least to me.
We're in a sort of an odd situation where we have existing cabins that don't have the measurements and elevations, but one or more are being moved. So what should we ask the engineer to reflect if we want more information?
John?
Could I suggest that we show you where the existing location is, where the proposed location will be, and then provide you with the dimension and elevation required? That's not going to change. It's just the location that will change, and we could show you both the existing and proposed.
So
That's fine.
that's fine. This is not met then. And then you'll provide that when you come back to us, correct?
Yep.
Location and dimensions of existing driveways, parking, loading areas, walkways, sidewalks on or immediately adjacent to the site. Once again, missing driveways.
Which driveway is missing, Mark?
On or immediately adjacent to the site. So goes up to, once again, Mr. Gott, for one thing.
Is it the board's understanding that Mr. Gott's driveway is adjacent to our site as a sidewalk would be? Or is it some distance away?
Are you asking, Mr. Barrow, or are you telling?
I'm asking because my visits there, I don't recall the driveway being abutting or adjacent to our parcel. We've agreed, though, in one of the earlier requirements that we're going to show that driveway. So it will be shown, but I'm not so sure that it's a failure on our part to not have shown it as an adjacent drive.
So you have no problem showing it, so we can say
Right.
to be included. Yeah. Okay.
So
That help you? Does that satisfy you?
do you think this should be met or not met?
Not met, but they're willing to. I mean, it's not at issue. They're going to do it.
Right. I'm with you. Location of intersecting roads or driveways within 200 feet of the site. Once again, our code enforcement officers point out the missing driveway. So we'll find that not met too, Mr. Bear. Location of open drainage courses, wetlands, stone walls, graveyards, fences, stand of trees, and other important features.
Well, we have information, whether we find it useful for us to determine. We have information from Haley Ward that they believe they're not reflected on the plan.
Ms. Watt, would you like to point out where these are reflected on the plan? And I assume we were talking about C1, correct?
Yep, on C1. We do show runoff arrow, directional arrows on the site plan. They're kind of scattered throughout because the site drains roughly to the north and then to the west toward the harbor, of course. So, I mean, I can give a verbal description of how the drainage flows on the land, if that would be helpful.
I think it should be reflected on the plan.
Yeah.
Well, are there open drainage courses? I mean, I take that term in ditches, brooks or streams. Water flows, water sheets across this parcel in a certain direction.
If my memory serves me right, when we did a site visit to the north, there's quite a drop off into a stream or gully area. I don't know if it was on there. There was no survey, so there's no way of telling where the line went in reference to that drop off in that gully. But it was a very marshy, damp area. The stream was running. You couldn't walk through it.
Right, and they had proposed some sort of system to control stormwater through there. It was like I can't remember exactly what it was, some sort of dam. Actually, it's not a dam, but I can't remember the engineering term. But you're right, on that north side, there is a waterway of some kind.
I mean, I can't speak to the other plan that was done by another engineer, but I do know that based on the survey information that we have, that the development is kind of located, it is a sloping property, but it's not near that drop off. If you can tell by the topography of the site. It is kind of a flattish wooded, heavily wooded area. We did do a stormwater modeling of the property and pre-development and post-development, and compared the two for stormwater runoff analysis. And we do know generally that the water does flow along the northern boundary toward the west. Sorry, I'm getting my directions mixed up. Toward the west, toward the harbor.
Since
Just
you're doing this in this application, this applicant's process, I think you should be aware of there is a neighbor to the north that's very concerned about, now whether they're going to raise concerns this time around, I can't speak, but the last time around, they raised a lot of concerns about the water running off into that area that's already carrying water from the property. So just sort of heads up, highlight that to you. So it may be coming up.
All right. Thank you.
Ms. Wada, I'm curious, have you visited the site?
Yes, I've been on the site.
Okay. Board, what do you think?
Well, I think it needs to be reflected on the plan,
So you're saying not met?
not met.
And can we get a little more clarification as to what needs to be reflected on the plan? That you think that is missing from your observations? I mean, we know there aren't any stone walls, graveyards, fences. Is it the drainage course?
Open drainage course, I think, is what we're talking about through that
Drainage
north end of
course,
the property.
wetlands, yeah.
Any wetlands, yeah. Brett, did you have any thoughts on this?
I'm trying to recall that site visit where we walked out. I mean, I know we did walk down and look at that area, and I remember that you had said that engineering term. So I think that does need to be reflected.
So you're saying not met as well?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll ask our surveyor to locate that drainage course. If it very well, as it appears on the survey we've had done, isn't on our property, we'll have him provide you with a narrative report that it's not on our property.
Okay.
That's fine, but it was on your property from the last application. I think we remember that.
I understand. I think I hired one of the best surveyors that you can hire, and if he doesn't show it on the plan, he's either got to explain why he didn't show it or it's not there. Okay.
Okay. The site, and this is, as Ms. Watt was saying, these arrows on the plan, correct? Ms. Watt?
I'm sorry, you cut out for a second. Direction of existing surface water. Yes.
The direction of the existing surface water drainage. It's reflected by the arrows that you're showing here on the plan, correct?
Yes.
So I think that's been met. Anybody disagree? Okay, we'll move on. The location. Wait, hold on. Yeah, the location, front view, dimensions, and lighting of existing signs. There are no existing signs. So that's been met. Location and dimensions of any easements and copies of existing covenants or deed restrictions. I know, Jeff, you looked over this deed pretty thoroughly the last time, and I don't think we found anything. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that's been met. Indication of water supply sufficient in quantity and quality for both normal use and fire protection. Adequate water for fire protection not addressed.
And how are we defining normal use?
Question 2. Well, normal use, if you remember under the campground standards, involves the state drinking water program, correct? We had a lot of discussion about this in previous times, and
Yeah. Don't we usually find it met on the conditionally met pending the state permit or something like that?
yeah, but this is also fire protection.
Oh, okay.
On sheet C1, we are noting the nearest dry hydrant, lot 3-13 Harkins Pond behind McKinley Cemetery. It's approximately 900 feet away.
Yes, I remember fire dry hydrant. Yes, okay. Well, our code enforcement officers marked this down as not met. I'd like to ask John. John? Mr. Larson?
I'm here.
Okay. Why did you think this condition was not met?
Where does it say it wasn't met?
In the X that you marked. And you say adequate water, adequate water for fire protection not addressed.
8.3L.
Well, I guess typically the board asks for a letter from the fire department saying that there's sufficient water to fight a fire there.
I don't think we've ever done that, and I don't think there's anywhere in the ordinance that requires us to do that, or the applicant to present, or for the board to do that. What do you think, members? Met or not met?
If the board if our ordinances bring up the issue of fire protection, we should address the issue of fire protection. How do you want to do that?
Well, we do have the dry hydrant nearby, correct? We know that. That was noted on the plan the last time.
Is not being a fireman, is 900 feet a reasonable distance to get hosing out or redo a pump truck or whatever it might do? I don't know. I don't know how to make the judgment call. That's why John's suggestion of a letter from the fire chief is a simple thing to put into the file, and just, well, we'll cover that contingency without spending time on it.
Go ahead, Brett.
I think what Jeff is suggesting is that the applicant would get something from the fire chief that's been looked at, and that's I mean, they certainly have indicated that there is fire protection, an indication of it. I guess whether, back to a comment made earlier, there's evidence of some ability to fight a fire, that's fire hydrant, and whether that's sufficient, I don't know that we pass judgment on that at this stage, right? This is just it's not a substantive review, it's just whether they've, in some fashion, addressed the issue.
Didn't we require something of Cadia Woods or Cadia Wilderness, whatever it was called?
No, they did in their application, if I recall, they did address these things and cited several sources of water for fighting the fire. I don't think there was anything from the fire chief himself.
Okay, I don't remember. Okay. I think with this first structures being proposed, this is an issue we should at least have something from the fire chief say there's adequate it can be serviced for, in case of emergency, for fire protection.
But wouldn't that be at the next step of our review? I mean, wouldn't that be the substantive review and not whether they've at least included some information? I mean, here we're just it's for completeness. Are you suggesting at the completeness stage they need to have that?
I guess we suggested that they agree they will provide something for the completeness process. What they provided is adequate. I don't think it's necessarily fair to the applicant suddenly to say this isn't there when we didn't ask for it in the first place.
Mr. Bear,
Yes.
do you have any objection? Obviously, you're going to have to come back to us. Do you have any objection that before you do that, to talk to our fire chief and get some kind of letter saying that there is adequate supply regarding fires?
I
Fire
have no
protection.
problem. We're happy.
You have no problem?
We'll do that.
Okay,
Yes.
there's a reasonable solution, right?
Sure.
So we'll say this is not met based on letter from fire chief saying that there is adequate water supply for fire protection. Sound good?
Yes.
Not hearing anything else? Okay. Estimated demand for water supply and sewage disposal. Together with the location and dimensions of all water supply and wastewater disposal, evidence of their adequacy for the proposed use, including soils test pit data if on-site sewage disposal is proposed. Now we do have, I'm sorry, go ahead, Brett.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
All that,
Say,
in-
say again, please. Brett?
I didn't say anything, Mark.
Okay. John, you were going to say something?
all that information can be found on the HHE 200.
Which is the subsurface wastewater disposal system application? Is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, I see now, HHE 200, yep. Yeah, which is the same one Jeff Crafts submitted previously.
No, it's not, Mr. Chairman. No, it's not. You see that it says this was revised 10/1/2021. Very bottom right-hand
Oh,
corner.
I see there. I just saw, okay. And what changed here? See page 2. Mix of wooden wall tent platforms.
I think the difference between the two, and I didn't prepare this obviously, is that Mr. LaBelle, when we told him that we were no longer a campground, we were going to be something different because the ordinance allows that. He simply removed the word campground from the subsurface wastewater disposal application. I don't know if he had to make any changes to the configuration or not. I don't believe he did.
Well, I do see on the second page of it, project explanation design flow does mean wooden wall tent platforms and small cabins.
Right. Which accurately.
So you are going to have tents.
Well, they're wooden, tall, they're wooden wall tent platforms, yes.
Now I'm confused. What is a wooden wall tent platform?
No, it's a platform, you put a tent on it.
Okay, so you will have tents.
Well, you can consider it doesn't really matter now, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, all right. We've reached agreement.
I think this has been Matt. What do you folks think?
Yes.
Yeah.
proposed surface water drainage across the site and from the site with assessments of impact on downstream properties. Ms. Watt, can you point out where you have the information about assessments of the impact on downstream properties?
Absolutely. That's found in the stormwater management report. It's a narrative.
I think it's there. What do you think, folks?
Yep. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Provisions. Talking to the mic. Provisions for handling solid waste, including hazardous and special waste, and location and proposed screening of any on-site collection or storage facilities. Shown on plan. We okay there? Show screening around the dumpster area. We all set there?
Yep.
Okay. Location, dimensions, and materials to be used in the construction of proposed driveways, parking and loading areas, and walkways. Any changes in traffic flow onto or off site. Traffic letter.
There's a traffic letter.
Okay.
I read by one, going to the other one.
Jeff, I'm going out tomorrow to buy a magnifying glass.
Hey, you can use your cell phone too. It has a little magnifier built into it. The iPhone.
Yeah. We all set there, folks? Does it say here what the walkways are going to be made of?
It should be noted on the site plan, and there's also some details shown for the material and construction.
Okay. We okay with that, folks?
Yep.
Yes.
Landscaping and buffering. Part of the buffer landscape plan. Okay, the buffer and landscape plan.
Does this change now that we're considering it back as a campground?
Well, the setback would be different, but I remember looking at this and thinking there was an issue. I'm gonna find a buffering plan here.
There is one. It's one of the, it's like the third big sheet in. 11 by 17 sheet in. For question for the engineer, do you need buffering on the other side of the property? Nothing is shown there.
I believe that on the other side of the property, there's just heavily wooded forest. It's kind of a natural buffer. It would be a little redundant to try to plant trees in between trees.
So, again, just to make sure I have clarity on this, the small little building that's on the south side of the parking area is getting moved to the north side of the parking area. Is that correct?
Yeah, the one cabin that's located kind of nearest the corner of the property line,
Yeah.
that one's being relocated.
I'm not looking at our ordinance at the moment. Do we need any buffering in around that area? Where the zigzag is on the property line?
Sorry about that, folks. I disappeared there for a second. I had to restart.
Mark, I was just asking whether we need any buffering plan for where the zigzag is on the north boundary line in around the parking lot and where the cabins are getting moved around.
I still haven't found that plan. You know, where'd you find it? I know I saw it.
Well, the buffering plan doesn't show it at all on that side of the property. That buffering
It's the
plan.
third, it's the third folded document in the back. You've got C1, you've got C2, and then you've got the buffering plan. And Jeff is asking about in the buffering plan, in the top left-hand corner, the cabin identified as number 2. And but in order to really see it, you've got to go back to C1.
Okay. The buffering plan, buffer landscaping plan? Is that the right one?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a full- Yes.
And you're asking about which cabin?
Up
The ones in the back?
upper left-hand corner, cabin number 2, that's just behind the parking lot there. If you look at that cabin, then look at the survey on C1, the location of the boundary line as to whether we should look for some buffering there or not.
I mean, to be candid with you, I need to go out and look at it again. I don't know. As we sit here today, I don't remember. But it's a good question. What's that?
You would think you would need buffering there. It's hard to tell from this plan.
I don't recall from the site visit what it looked like there. I do know, as the engineer had said, the other, the boundary that goes up on that side is all woods. And where they propose buffering is really, where the primary issue was, but there could be in some that corner that Jeff's identifying too, but I just don't know. I don't know. It feels like it's something, again, it's like we're getting into the adequacy of the plan and not whether they submitted something responsive to the requirement. We might go through, when by the time we get to review it, maybe we'll do another site visit and we can suggest that. And then if they didn't do it, then it wouldn't be adequate. But as I sit here now, I think they proposed a buffering plan. I just don't know if it's adequate.
I think it's been met for now. I have to agree with that, Jeff, and it's certainly we can address if there are issues
I'll go along with it.
later on. Yeah, okay.
I think it's a good question. I just don't know.
I also wondered to the north as well, but well, we'll see. Location, dimensions, and ground floor elevations of all proposed buildings or building expansion proposed on the site. We got nothing, I guess. Not met.
Yeah, and I know the comment was made earlier that we don't know and they're going to be built into the landscape, but I'll just throw it out there now. Part of the whole issue with buffering is to buffer the sight line to the project from neighbors, and if we can't tell what you're gonna build and what the elevations are, then we can't do that. And it makes it's gonna create issues. So you're gonna need to figure out a little better what you're gonna do, other than, we're gonna adjust it on the fly and make it look real nice and trust us. That's not gonna make your neighbors happy. And it makes it impossible for us to judge the buffering plan.
Not met. Location, front view, materials and dimensions of proposed signs together with a method for securing the sign. No signs proposed, correct, Mr. Bear? You're muted, I'm sorry.
That's correct.
Okay. That's Matt. Location and type of exterior lighting and lighting sheet and cover letter. I did see the lighting sheet in there.
Yep.
I think we're all set there. Anybody? We okay with that?
Yeah.
Location of all utilities, including fire protection. Once again, fire protection. So we own the location of all utilities. Do we, Ms. Watt, do we show electricity and water supplies going to the shower bathroom facility
Yes.
on C1?
Yep. There's a utility electric line running from a pole in the street, running up the side of the driveway, underground.
Yes, underground, yes. Yep.
And also a water line coming from the existing well going to the surface buildings.
Okay, I think that's okay. Right, folks?
Yep.
Okay. A general description of the proposed use or activity. Well, that's changed, hasn't it?
But I don't think it's changed. You can call it something different, but the proposed use and the activities that are going to take place are as described.
Okay,
I think
anybody
it's probably-
disagree?
No,
Brett, go ahead.
I think that's Matt. I agree. I mean, it's
Okay,
it's definitely not a hotel. We know that.
an estimate of the peak hour and daily traffic to be generated by the project.
That's a traffic letter. So yeah.
Okay. Got that? Stormwater calculations, erosion and sedimentation control measures, water quality, phosphorus export management provisions. The project requires a stormwater permit from the DEP, or if the planning board determines that such information is necessary based upon the scale of the project or the existing conditions in the vicinity of the project. Stormwater management erosion control report made part of the application. We did see that before. I think we're okay there. Remember, we're just at this point determining that that condition's been met.
Yep, it's there. It's the letter dated October 15th.
Yep. And approval block, which is on the site plan. So we're all set.
Do we need to be concerned if there's no calculations involved at the moment? That could be picked up later.
I think later through
Okay.
the review process. Because no doubt we're also going to have a peer review of stormwater management. Okay. I'll take a motion to find that the application is incomplete.
Also move that's incomplete for the reasons we've listed.
I'll second. I started to keep notes, but I didn't keep notes on the reasons.
I have arrows and check marks, but I'm not sure. I didn't skip a couple, so.
I have them all, I think.
If you want to read them off, Mark, to make it easier for the applicant, I can go through my checklist at the same time.
Okay, and Mr. Bear, if he hears say anything that he disagrees with, please let us know.
Sure.
I have locate 82B, location of all required building setbacks, yards, and buffers.
Yes,
I have 83C, location and size of any existing septic and well, culverts and drains, underground tanks.
Yes.
83D, I have 83D, location, names, and present width of existing streets and rights of way within or adjacent to the proposed development.
Yes.
83E, the location, dimensions, and elevations of all existing buildings on the site. 83F, the location and dimensions of existing driveways, parking, and loading areas, walkways, and sidewalks on or immediately adjacent to the site. 83G, location of intersecting roads or driveways within 200 feet of the site. 83H, location of open drainage courses, wetlands, stone walls, graveyards, fences, stand of trees, and other important features with the drainage courses that we were concerned with. 83L, indication of water supply sufficient in quantity and quality for both normal use and fire protection. We were asking for a letter from the fire chief. Make sure that it's adequate. 84F, the location, dimensions, and ground floor elevation of all proposed buildings or building expansion proposed on the site. And that's it. That's what I have.
Did you do both 83E and 83F?
Yes.
3
Yes.
E, F.
E and EF, yes.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Bear, you're clear on what
Yep.
you need to do,
We
right?
are, and we will
Okay.
have this information filed with the town as soon as possible. Assume that, is there a number of days before your next meeting that it needs to be filed?
Everything should be filed at least the Tuesday before our meeting that you're going to
Okay.
present it with.
Okay, all right,
To us.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have a motion on the table. Did we ever get a second to find this incomplete?
I did second it, yeah.
Okay, motion and second on the table to find this application for Pointy Head incomplete for all the reasons we just discussed. I'll take a vote. Brett,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
myself, yes. 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too, Ms. Watt. Okay. Moving along, discussion of amendments to sections of the land use ordinance pertaining to campgrounds. And if you remember that we need to set a public hearing on our proposed amendments. And I'm going to suggest March 1st, 6 p.m. by Zoom. Anybody have a problem with that? It
No.
gives Jesse enough time to post it in the newspaper. And for any of our proposed amendments to be looked over by Mr. Larson and then our town attorney, James Collier, probably. So does that work? I think I heard Brett say yes. Does that work with you, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, I'll take a motion to set the public hearing then. for March 1st, 6 p.m. by Zoom on the Luo
moved.
amendments.
Second.
Motion is second on the table to set a public hearing on the proposed Luo amendments regarding campgrounds for March 1st. That's a Tuesday, 6 p.m. by Zoom. All right. Let's move along and continue our discussion of this. We made several motions last time. Trying to find my notes here. And we were going to work on minimum acreage, the definition, maximum number of campsites, and square footage for each campsite. Anybody want to tackle anything first? Oh, by the way, we did get, it's in your packets, some revisions to CTR's proposed changes from Mr. Spencer. Now, these came in after the set deadline. I understand Mr. Spencer sent this by postal service rather than an email. I have no objection to considering these despite missing the deadline. But maybe we ought to make a motion on it.
What motion are you looking for? Matt?
What's that?
What motion are you looking for?
Well, we set a deadline of Tuesday. These came on Thursday, 2 days after the deadline. So I just wanted to be clear that we as a board are accepting these after the deadline that had been set. Now, had Mr. Spencer sent it by email, it would have been here on time. Mr. Spencer, you do know we have email up here, right? He's muted.
I've learned that since last Tuesday.
Okay, I know we're not a big city like Portland, but you know, we do have some conveniences here.
I move that we accept accept these suggestions for us to help us look at things and think about the changes to the land use ordinances, even though they came in a few days after our deadline of Tuesday.
Brett,
I don't have any objection.
so that's a second?
Oh, we're going to actually move to make it part of the record or something? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I think it should be clean that way.
Okay, sure. Second.
Okay. Motion is second on the table to allow this late filing or submission by Mr. Spencer because it came snail mail. Any discussion? Hearing none. I'll call for a vote. Brett,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
myself, yes. Okay. So where do you want to go first? You want to talk about definition for recreational lodging facility? Frankly, I see that Mr. Spencer's recommendations, he's changed it. And it kind of looks good to me. I don't have any real objections to it, except for striking this in the next to the last line.
What do you? Oh,
Unit as defined in this Article 9 or 11. I don't think that this is necessary. Just an editorial comment.
I'm fine with it.
I think this is consistent with what we discussed. I paused at recreational vehicles because I think we talked about prohibiting those moving forward, but we have some existing, at least two, I think, that have recreational vehicles, so, okay, fine.
I believe it's just one. I don't think there are any over at Quiet Side Campground, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah, I wondered the same thing, Brett, but I didn't think it was a bad thing. I thought it was very consistent with what we discussed at our last meeting. And I, for one, didn't come up with anything better. I don't know whether you did, Brett, or you did, Jeff.
No,
no,
Okay, we'll take a motion then on that.
I move that we accept, that we use the language that was provided to us in for the definition of recreational lodging facility as part of the change to ordinances. Is that what you're looking for, Mark?
Yes, I guess so.
Oh, after taking out the word "this."
yeah, I mean, I'll second that. You know, I will say, we'll move right to the discussion. It's unfortunate that Beth and Lawson aren't here. I feel like these are pretty, these are significant, matters, and it's just unfortunate that Lawson and Beth aren't here. It's just three of us, but it is what it is.
Well, yeah, Beth had an important family matter, and Lawson, I tried to encourage him to maybe participate by Zoom, but when he said that he was going to Columbia, that was taken off the table there.
Yeah,
So he wouldn't be able to make it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the table to adopt the definition for recreational lodging facility as presented in this document from Mr. Spencer, striking the word "this." Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Brett?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. And how about this next thing? Amend the definition of hotel, motel, botel. Mr. Spencer, I'm going to ask you a question. Can you explain why you thought this was necessary when really we're talking about campgrounds? You can unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, the reason I thought it was necessary is that you currently have a definition in the definitions, which is hotel, motel, botel, cabins, cottages, etc. And that seems to overlap with recreational lodging facility. So what I tried to do was to make it clear what's a recreational lodging facility and then what's a hotel, motel, so that you wouldn't have this overlap. And you, contrary to the discussion you were just having about what you were looking at, if you use this definition, anything that had 4 or more rooms or areas for sleeping would be a hotel motel, and anything less than that that didn't have cooking facilities would be a recreational lodging facility. So it just eliminates all the ambiguity, and all you'd have to do is look at the proposal, and if it had 4 rooms or more, it would be a hotel motel. If it was less than 3 sleeping areas or rooms, then if it didn't have cooking facilities, it would be a recreational lodging facility. So it makes the whole thing consistent. Otherwise, you have overlapping definitions.
Thank
Can
you.
I ask a question is, since you were bared with our earlier discussions on the pointy head application, we have the word transient in our definitions as to defining a drawing line between campgrounds and non-campground facilities. Did you look at that at all when you were looking at our, because you've
Well,
used the word transient in this definition?
I thought it would be, I basically said tourists, transients, or other visitors. So essentially it's anybody. And if it's got 4 rooms, it's a motel or a hotel. If it's got less than that, it's a recreational lodging facility. If it has less than that per unit. So I think if in any campground I could think of, you probably can stay for 2 nights or 10 nights. So I don't know how that makes it, how you use that as a distinction for anything. It seems to me the thing you need to do is to define these things based on the spaces that are available for rent. And I've excluded, to deal with Mr. Mansalili's concern, I've excluded renting residential dwelling units or rooms in a residential dwelling unit from the definition of recreational lodging facility. So what I'm trying to do, or what I was trying to do, is to create some clear definitions that don't overlap, that are easy, that have a bright red line for the planning board to know what you're looking at. If it's a lot of small units with less than 3 rooms or sleeping areas, it's a recreational lodging facility. If it has more than 3 rooms, then it's a hotel motel. And
Thank you.
it's just clear.
Yep. Brett, any thoughts on this?
I'm looking it over. I'm trying to make sure we don't, I know there are a lot of people that they certainly rent rooms out. They certainly rent out. They have residences that they rent out, but I think you've carved out rental of a residential dwelling unit or rooms in a residential dwelling unit. So I think that addresses the, I call it the Airbnb.
Your concern was the same as mine, and I think it is addressed under the definition that we just voted on.
I think so.
Yeah.
I understand the point. I was kind of scratching my head that, the difference between whether it's a campground or a cottage or whatever, shouldn't, like, the length of stay obviously wasn't intended. And, that's where Diane landed. And I think that, that's probably how the definitions work, but I don't think that's a rational basis to sort of distinguish what these things are. So I think that my sense is the definition in section 1B is just trying to further define a hotel motel. Yeah,
we're not going to solve all of our problems with the ordinance tonight.
yeah.
And we can do what we can and then address things later on. We do have the comp plan process going on and things like that.
Well, that's the, look, big picture here, kind of what's going on, and I think we have to be careful. You do not, it is not, any planner worth a grain of salt will tell you, it is not really a good process to engage in substantive and material rezoning under a land use ordinance based on the reactions of one application outside of a comprehensive plan process. It's not a good idea. You just don't do that. I mean, we're trying to stuff this thing into our regular work schedule. And I mean, that's why we're starting this now at 8 o'clock at night. So I do think, but I also appreciate the concerns of the folks that have expressed them. So you're right, Mark. I think that, you know, we need to address, and we did some last time, the issues and concerns raised in the context of that, of campgrounds. I think there's probably two big issues that we could address. One is clarifying and making sure that we, to the best we can, clarify what a campground is. And I think that's what we're doing right now. And then the second is, then once you've clarified that, put the supplemental standards around what are the requirements applicable to a campground. And we've done some of that as well. As I sit here and read these definitions, I don't have, on facially, they look reasonable to me, but I have not, I have not done an analysis of how it works when it flows through everything. But they look reasonable to me on their face. That means to me, the real work now, and there's a lot of feedback we got. I've read some of the letters, read all the letters and the emails about the standards. So I don't know where you want to go from here, Mark, or if you're looking for a motion on one.
Do we not? Maybe we just don't even want to do anything about hotel, motel, botels, etc. at this point.
Mark, we are responsible as a board to look at things, and the only thing we're focusing on, and Brett has made this point several meetings, is campgrounds. And as you know, I have issues with the word light commercial. I have issues with the dwelling unit definition, but that's not what we're working on. We're working on the campground issue. So I think there's not a problem with drilling deeper into making sure if we're going to cover this one issue, we do it carefully and deeply and not with a broad stroke approach. I think that's what leads us to more issues and conflict. So I agree with Brett. We should, can't change everything. We do have the comprehensive plan rolling along, but we are sort of between the moratorium, I know it's over, but we had the moratorium, we had the people's petition, which was quite significant, wanted to look at the campground issue. So I think it's good that we're doing these definitions and do a thorough job on the campground issues.
I don't think anybody's saying anything different. It's just the question I have, is this applicable? Is this applicable to addressing campground issues or not?
One of the problems I feel personally in our code is there's been so much patchwork done over the years where they bring in one statute, it doesn't agree with everything else, then language changes and definitions. And we have some inconsistencies for the way it's been done. One of the things I like about, if we do address the hotel motel, we're trying to tie things together so that we don't have the inconsistencies in our definitions. So it still is addressed in the campground situation, which I think is what we should be focusing as we've discussed. It just, we can't just take campgrounds and isolate and not touch a couple other things that are interrelated.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I move that we accept B as a redefinition of hotel motel for the purpose of putting something together to be reviewed by our council and as you discussed at the beginning. I mean, we're still just drafting things. This can change a lot down the road.
I'm fine with that, as long as we're not moving right now to put it on, to present it to the voters. I think it just worked. I think facially, as I look at it, I think it makes sense, but I'd like to have our, someone look at it. I mean, this is where we need a planner.
Right.
But I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table to propose the hotel motel definition that is in Mr. Spencer's proposed standards. Any further discussion? Striking this again.
I meant to include that.
I'm not adverse to this.
Mark. Damn.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a vote. Brett,
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go yes too, 3-0. And I don't want to dwell too much because we have our own ideas about some other things here, but I want to go through the definition camping unit that's proposed here, which I assume would replace campsite or campground.
No.
Would be campsite, I guess.
Are you talking about section 3.6? Did you jump down to that?
No, 1C.
C. Section 1 definition C.
Yeah, I think we need to do that because campsite no longer,
Right, it says camping units and a recreational lodging facility. That's correct.
well, if you expand the definition of recreational lodging facilities to include these other categories, campsite no longer, it's a bit of a square peg. So it's just it's a broader definition of campsite to include the categories above. Again, in principle, I get it. It makes sense.
You want to make a motion?
Sure. I will move that we, so what are we doing here?
I know it's getting late, sorry.
We are, well, we're agreeing to adopt the proposed language in 1C of the CTR proposed ordinance provisions for the purposes of further review and analysis by our attorney and potential incorporation into revisions to the land use ordinance.
I'll second that.
Motion is second on the table to adopt or send article section 1C, use that definition as part of our proposed ordinance amendments. Sorry, that wasn't very clear, but it is getting late. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Jeff,
Yes.
just to mix things up.
Oh, sorry.
Just want to see your awake. Okay, I'm Brett is a yes. Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. 3-0 on that. Okay. Minimum acreage and square footage for each campsite. We talked a little bit about this the last time. And Brett, I believe you had a proposal. I think it was.
Yeah, I had, well, I think we actually, so in terms of setback, as I recall, we landed at 75 feet.
Yes, correct.
In terms of minimum site size, they're proposing 5. I actually went to 10 acres. And my rationale was, I wouldn't think you'd want a bunch of kind of onesie-twosie campgrounds kicking around. I just would think you would want, if you're going to allow it, you would want it to be, you tend to want to have the requirement of a larger site size, both as a management tool. You're going to tend then to have, those things, to the extent they exist, they're going to have a decent sized chunk of land, which, you know, can be a limiting factor. But you're not having, you know, these sort of all over the place small little sites. They're going to tend to be, in general, less of them and, you know, more concentrated. And that's why I went with 10 acres instead of 5.
And also, I think you were proposing 10,000 square feet.
Yeah, I went to 10,000 square feet. I mean, 30,000 square feet is 3/4 of an acre.
You would have,
So-
yeah, you could have one campsite on an acre.
Yeah, I mean, so in order to have, you know,
And I could have a convenience store and gas station on an acre with 25-foot setback.
yeah. So I think we're at 5,000 now. I think it just seemed off market. It did not seem consistent with. I think the last time we talked about other towns, what theirs are as well, and I didn't hear anything as high as 30,000. Now, you know, there was some. I did read some of the letters. There was some feedback, and there was a comment about encouraging low-income housing. And I just want to respond. I read that. I thought about it. I get it, but I'm concerned that, you know, if you want to encourage low-income housing, tweaking the campground regs it may be a piece of the puzzle, but it isn't going to solve the problem. It isn't going to solve that issue. You've got to create other incentives for people to do that, because you're still going to have the issue of short-term rentals and people wanting to, you know, that's what's going to win out right now. So I don't think that, you know, raising it to 30,000 square feet is going to necessarily, if there's any sort of relationship between that and encouraging short-term housing. I just personally don't. And I felt like I'm still at 10,000 square feet. I think it's twice what we are now. It's a pretty good space. And if you then went to the maximum number of units, I'm kind of at 40 or 50. I did get some feedback from folks from that last meeting, and the number 50 was thrown out there as the maximum number. But if you know, it just kind of worked. If you've got 10 acres, 10,000 square feet per, that would be about, and you could build on everything. That would be about the maximum size you could have as well. Would be if you had 40 units.
Yeah, and of course you probably can't build on everything.
You can't. So right. So
Yeah, but it would be 43 units. You're right.
and
Yeah.
then you wouldn't necessarily end up with huge, you know, 20-acre campgrounds, because it wouldn't make sense financially that if you're maxed out at 40 or 50 units, you're not going to have that much land tied up. You know, so it's that, again, I'm just kind of rough justice thinking out loud, you know.
Okay, you want to make a motion to that effect? 10,000 square feet and 40 or 50, 45?
Well, I've been curious. You know, I did get the 40. I don't know. If we go to 50 units, what does it do? It's still, I think it still operates as a limit on how big they're going to be, because you wouldn't, if you go 10,000 square feet a piece and you've got 50, you're still not going to go more than, you know, 15 acres, right? I mean, you're just not, no one's going to do that. You're tying up way too much land. So I don't know what the right number is on the maximum number. I think it's, you know, I could compromise myself and say 45. You know, but I think that they all work together. I'm going to make a motion that I'm going to do them one at a time, and then we can discuss. I do think they're related, but I'm really curious of Jeff's view, and I really wish Beth and Lawson were here. It's just unfortunate they can't be. I'm going to make a motion that we adopt for further analysis and discussion a minimum site size for a recreational lodging facility of 10 acres.
Second.
Motion and second on the table to adopt 10 acre as a minimum lot size for campgrounds, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. Brett,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
myself, yes, 3-0, so 10 acres. So that comes down, the next thing is maximum or square footage for the campsite, for each campsite, which of course relates also to the maximum number of campsites, correct?
Correct. So I'm going to make a motion for the maximum density for a recreational lodging facility of 1 unit per 10,000 square feet of suitable land area. Again, for proposal for, for further analysis but as a proposal, again, I'm not sure what the process is after this, Jeff. I heard our lawyer can look at it. There'll be some further analysis. I'd like to move forward on that basis.
I'll second it. Motion and second on the table, 1 unit for every 10,000 square feet of land area, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion?
So these things are conceptually sometimes hard to wrap your head around. We have a minimum 40,000 square feet to build a house throughout our town. And so if you look at the minimum lots, basically should be 40,000 square feet in the town. So 10,000 square feet, it's almost an acre. So you're looking at like 4 campsites per acre. Is that what you're thinking about, Brett?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, an acre in
Right now it'd be 8, right?
yeah, an acre in Portland looks huge. An acre in here looks small. So I'm wondering if at 10,000 we are sweet. I was leaning more towards something like a 15,000 square feet versus 10. Looking at 3 sites per acre. But that's just it's hard to get your imagine.
An acre is 43,000 square feet, so that would not be 3 sites per acre, right?
Right.
43,560.
Yeah.
Right. So that would be 2 sites per acre.
No, 15,000. Oh, right. Actually, I was thinking about 13,000 square feet. So you can get 3. I was looking at 3 sites per acre is my concept in my head that I was trying to figure out rather than 4.
So that would be 30 on 10 acres. As opposed to 40 that Brett's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple thoughts there. One, another approach I'm taking here, and I know that there's some strong opinions to the contrary, is to try to take some incremental approaches, and just kind of see how that plays out. We're at 8 now. We take it down to 4 per acre. That's one thought. The second thought is, it is interesting, and there is this kind of, I'm not a sort of, it's been a while since I've been to a campground, but there is kind of people tend to, when they go to the campgrounds, they tend to they tend to get to know their neighbors, so to speak. I mean, it's kind of a communal type thing, and there was some discussion about in one of the meetings about people being too close together that are staying at the campground. I don't know. I mean, there's some views of that, but there's also they don't. That's part of the experience of going to a campground is you're around other sort of like-minded people kind of doing the same thing. You go to a communal campfire or whatever. So I don't know. I'm still at 10,000 feet. It feels like a good round number, and it just kind of fits in with the other sort of numbers. But I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
I think I need to unmute myself first. Well, yeah, I mean, we're all right. It's a tough decision to make, what is correct. 30,000 to me is just way too much for now, especially since it's one campsite per acre. And like I said, Jeff used the example of a house, but in the residential business zone, which is what we're talking about here, where campgrounds are allowed, we can have something with much greater impact than a few campsites on 1 acre of land. We could have a 24-hour convenience store with cars coming in and out all the time. All kinds of noises, early breakfast for the fishermen, like Hanson's. So, I mean, that's an issue that we need to address through the comprehensive plan process, and I hope we do. But for now, I'm going to go with the 1 unit for 10,000. I'll call for a vote if we're going to need to move this on.
Yeah, I'm going to vote for it only because I know I get a second bite of the apple when we go to the public hearing. So I could re-argue again, maybe with some support behind me. So I'm going to vote yes, but doesn't mean I'm not going to change it at a later date.
Fair enough.
Have you ever considered running for political office? Okay, call for a vote. Jeff, Brett? Sorry.
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes. 3-0. 1 unit for 10,000. Okay. So does that give us, we need to address maximum campsites? Yes.
We have not.
Yes, we do.
I think I'm going to move for. I've been thinking about it. I mean, I looked at what's down here in the corner. There's quite a few down here. I want to say 70. I was trying to do the math. They're numbered, but they're not. They're kind of numbered, kind of funky.
Oh, you mean at Bass Harbor Campground?
Yeah.
100 and some. It's like 120.
Yeah, it's a lot. What's on the
RVs?
What's the quiet side? It's around 50, I think.
I can't remember. It was quite high too. It's higher than what the numbers we've been hearing tonight.
I think I'm going to go with I'm going to compromise in my own mind and go at 45 because I've heard 50 from a couple folks. Some feedback. I propose 40. I'm going to move that to move forward for the purposes of incorporating it into the proposed change by our lawyer that the maximum number of units of I guess it would be called
Okay. Second, Jeff?
well, 45. I didn't say it actually. Camping units would be 45. 45 units.
Camping units. Okay, yes, that's right. I'll second that. For discussion here. A motion is second on the table to set a maximum of 45 camping units per site or campground. Any discussion?
Well, I even if I went with 40, I'd be unhappy because I think it's too many, but I'd go with 40. Only because, we listened to all the issues of impact on our roads and our traffic. And if you put together a number of campgrounds at 50 or 45, you're adding a lot of impact on our public facilities. I don't think our town can handle. So I think one of the ways we should be looking at this is limiting it a little bit so it's not a massive campground. And I think 45 is a lot, but I would vote for 40 for this proposal.
Well, I don't think we're going to have quite the invasion of campgrounds that some people might think we're going to have. I think really the real danger is the weekly rentals, the Airbnbs and that sort of thing, to the question of affordable housing and traffic and things like that.
Well, Mark, I think.
What's the difference?
You think, if you look at communities around in Surrey and I think there's one Gouldsboro, there's a lot of campgrounds beginning to mushroom up, and I'm not sure that's a safe comment to make.
Well, there's going to be a saturation point. And a lot of that, I think, it's being driven by COVID. But we're getting off the think here. I don't see what difference five units are going to make. It's not going to be a significant impact. You say 40, Brett says 45.
I'd be happy at 40.
I'll call for a vote. We have the motion on the table for 45. Brett,
Yes.
Jeff,
No.
I'll go yes, 2-1.
You'll get another bite at the apple, Jeff.
Oh, I know. I remember I started to say I wasn't even happy at 40, so I was gonna
I know.
second bite at a lower number.
Well, I mean, if we're going to make it so low that it's not financially viable, then I don't know why we just wouldn't ban it. You know, I mean, that's,
Well, that's what it comes down to. You know,
yeah,
essentially you can make it so restrictive it's a de facto ban. So why go that way when you could just ban it?
right. Right.
And that doesn't mean people are going to vote for it. Just because we
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing that says, there's going to be a third bite, frankly, Jeff. If this goes through, there's still a comprehensive plan process happening in the background. There'll be another opportunity to do another round, which I'm sure there will be.
Yeah, land use ordinances are not set in stone. That's why we're doing this.
I'll be making apple cider at this rate.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else we need to discuss?
Did you vote on the 75-foot buffer?
We did the last
Yes,
time,
we
I
did
think.
the last time, John, yes.
Yeah. I had crossed out the unit separation. I just didn't feel like it was necessary.
I agree, and I think that I thought that's basically what we decided the last time. We didn't vote on it, so yeah.
One of the issues I reflected on after our last meeting, we limited it to 3 rooms, but not to maximum occupancy per unit and per room. So I think if I remember our conversations, well, with 3 rooms, 2 beds in each room, that's 6 people, it'll self-regulate. But I don't think those sort of things self-regulate easily. All you need is a bunch of college kids coming by and saying, oh, 3 rooms, we can put 24 people there. And you know what I mean? They could become over.
I know what you mean, but I don't think we didn't take any action on that.
I thought we did on 3 rooms.
No. The only things we took action on last time were annual inspections by the CEO and issuance of an annual permit, smokeless fire pits, quiet hours, no recreational vehicles, owner or representative on duty while open, and setback increase from 50 to 75 feet. And then the ones we just did tonight.
Okay.
I also I think I understand I don't know if we talked about the consolidated ownership or control. But I mean, that kind of makes sense to me as well, right? Otherwise you could have someone kind of do a project in multiple steps and arguably kind of, get around some of the maximums and some of at least the 45 unit maximum, right?
Now, if we were going to have a limit to the number of people that could stay in a particular unit, how would that even be enforced?
Is that a question to me?
Or Brett?
Yeah, apologies. I kind of moved on. I don't feel as strongly about it. I think it would be tough to enforce. I think, look, you're going to have people who, try to put, cram a bunch of people in a location once in a while. But I think it's also up to the camp. I think that it's going to be self-regulated because the campground owner is not going to like that, right? They're going to want all those people to pay a fee. They're going to have their own rules about that, I would think. And so I'm just not, I don't know. don't know that that's a real risk. I just, I don't. It's not like it's like a, I just don't think it is. But I'm happy to continue discussing it.
It is an incentive for a campground owner to be sure that they comply with what they're doing, because they're licensed. We talked about annual renewals and so forth. It gives them an incentive to make sure they're not overcrowding their own campgrounds for the almighty dollars, like I guess I'll say. So I think there is an incentive, at least, to keep honest campground people honest.
So what would you say per campsite? What's the limit?
I would say 6.
Okay. So if you've, yeah.
You'll get another bite of the apple, Brett.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, a lot of times couples do that. I guess, yeah, if you get a couple, 2 kids each, that's not going to work for them. But sure, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what we looked at for those back at AWL, what those cottages look like. I think you'd be hard pressed to get more than 6 people in there. So I don't feel that strongly about it, frankly. I'm ambivalent.
Well, I'm for the sake of moving the evening along, and since it's only a draft to be looked at many more times, I'll move that we have 6 persons per limit per campsite.
Ready? You want to make a second?
I'm waiting for you to see if you are, Mark.
I'll make a second if you want, but I made the motion.
I'll second it for sake of discussion. Motion second on the table for maximum occupancy of 6 people per campsite.
I just don't know if I just don't know if that's market. I don't know if 8's market. Like, I just don't know if that's, I don't know what the typical, I just don't know what it is. So I'm not informed enough to say,
I think, that's something that we don't even, I'm going to vote against it. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, a lot of this we're not sure what market is, and again, it's a draft that we're trying to work through to have some material to.
I think it's little more than a draft. I keep hearing that. We're really trying to make recommendations, proposals here, and maybe through the public hearing process or something, there might be some changes. But I think basically what we're doing here is this is what we want.
Yes, but the public hearing plays an important role in this as to modifying what we're floating, trial balloons, running up the flagpole, whatever expression you want to use at this hour of the evening. But it at least gives something we could eliminate completely after the public hearing. It gives a target for people to respond to.
I did mention that it could be modified after the public hearing. Okay, I'm going to call for a vote. Brett?
I'm going to say no on this one. I'm just going to say no. Maybe because it's getting late and I'm starting to get into that kind of mood.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, no. 1-2.
I think if we get that feedback though, and like, I wonder if market's 8, because I'm just thinking about how couples go and they each have 2 kids. But I don't know, Jeff. So I'm open to it,
I'll move 8 then if you want, that we limit people. I mean,
Let's hold on 1 second here. If we're going to, it's getting late, as we all know. And I'm sure some of us would like to eat. I know I do. Yeah. But the thing is, unless we're going to schedule another meeting like maybe like Thursday or something, so that we can get this through the process. We either have to finish tonight or schedule that extra meeting.
I'm fine with doing something on Thursday. I feel like we're pretty close, but I'm also pretty tired. Let me look at my calendar.
I can't make Thursday. How about tomorrow night?
Oh, I can't do tomorrow night. We won't have a quorum either unless Beth shows up, right?
Jesse, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
You probably don't like this, but if we do schedule an extra meeting here to finish up, is next Tuesday too late to get things through the attorney before the public hearing?
I can't say for sure without checking with him, but it should be okay.
Should be okay.
It still gives him 2 weeks to look at it, so.
Okay, or there's always Friday, or which might not be good for people, or Monday, next Monday too. Unless there's a selectmen's meeting on Monday.
No.
I can do Monday to Valentine's Day. Sure.
That's Valentine's Day.
I think so.
Probably
Monday,
should
yeah.
be Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday the 15th?
Yeah.
Yeah, can do that too.
Tuesday?
Do you want to do it at 5?
That's probably a good idea.
Yes.
Does that work for you, Jeff? Tuesday at 5?
Tuesday at 5 seems to work for me, and maybe Jesse or John can send out a list of other things we should think about as the remaining items.
Yeah, I'd like to, it'd be great to get a list of what we have now. Because I know there was a lot of sort of little sort of issues we tackled early that were fairly straightforward. It'd be good just to see all those along with what I feel like we've made decent progress so far, and we've got a little bit more to go, but it'd be good to see what we've done.
I can see the light at the end of the tunnel here.
Yeah, but is it the train coming the other way?
I think it probably
There's
is.
always a train coming the other way. That's why you lay down on the tracks and let it pass over you.
You know, all you have to do is look at your email inbox for the letters. That's the train's coming every meeting.
Okay, Jesse, are you able to do that, or would you like me to compile a list? I'd be happy to do it by next Tuesday. I think I can do it.
No, I think either John or I will probably just work on putting it in the ordinance in the red line version, so you can see the changes you've proposed, and then provide a list of what you might have left.
Okay, and of course, some of those things like the definitions, they're as you know, there have to be some changes in other parts of the ordinance.
Right.
So that those match up. Yeah. Okay. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
Unless you want to stay here till midnight or something.
No.
I don't. Okay. I'll take a motion to, well, where'd my agenda? So all we need to do is set that meeting. We set the public hearing.
Yeah.
And, okay, so let's, I'll take a motion to set meeting, our next meeting for Tuesday. And what's that date? I'm sorry.
15th.
February 15th.
February 15th at 5 o'clock by Zoom because of COVID. Somebody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Second, motion and second to
Second.
schedule our next meeting for Tuesday, February 15th at 5 o'clock by Zoom due to COVID protocols. All in favor?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Myself, yes, 3-0. Okay. just a motion to adjourn, I guess. Unless, Jesse, unless you think there's something else we need to discuss, or John.
One question. Has a planner or attorney been agreed to is that we can use? We keep talking about sending someone. And
We're working on it. I'll have a proposal for the select board, hopefully at their meeting on the 22nd. Most likely they won't be able to advise on these things due to the tight timeline, but afterwards, any changes that need to be discussed.
okay.
So Jesse, will that dovetail with the comprehensive plan task force work, or how is that? Is there any integration there at all? I'm just
That's
curious.
the plan. Yes.
Okay. Motion to adjourn, please.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Motion is second on the table to adjourn. Call for a vote, Jeff.
Yes.
Myself. Yes, Brett.
Yes.
Okay. Good night, folks. Thanks for hanging in there.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
And we'll have Beth with us at our next meeting, hopefully.